the question is basically they need another big player back, which I would say I'd agree with. I don't think this team as constructed is going to win a title or compete for a title. I think it's very much another move and maybe multiple moves away from becoming that type of team. Now, does this team or does this trade solidify what they have and give them kind of a higher floor than they had previously? I would say certainly, Bill, but I think the problem is, yes, they're still behind the Celtics. They're still behind most likely the Bucks. Although I think now that they're deeper, I am a little more interested in, how they match up with the Bucks overall, because Milwaukee hasn't exactly come flying out of the gate. They barely beat the Sixers, had a horrible loss to the Hawks, and Dame has been a little bit up and down, is on the older side. We'll see how that works out. So yes, they need another move potentially, I think. Yeah. Oh, and look at that. We have another super chat from Papas. Oh yeah, this is a thing. Celebrate Harden's leaving with super chats. Go, 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 go. So thank you, Papas, who if I remember correctly, Derek, isn't he in the UK? Yeah. So shout out to Papas.
This is probably a much better time for him. He's got 10 a.m. pods 2 days in a row.
Well, yeah, he gave us £5 instead of $5. Right. So that's pretty clear that he's in another country.
Also, are you going to yell at Daryl for making you do a 10 a.m. pod like you did yell at me?
No, this is at least understandable.
No, it's not. You can wait until 8 a.m. to make a trade.
Well, that's definitely true. But if they did a trade at 8 a.m., we still probably would have done a 10 a.m. show, if I had to guess.
Especially since we have to be over at the practice facility at noon. It's they certainly need to have a follow-up trade. And no corner of my mind do I believe that Daryl Morey is sitting here going, all right, this is my team to make a playoff run. I think he's going to pursue it. Like I said, maybe one doesn't become available at the trade deadline and they go into the offseason, whether that's making a trade at the draft, which would be tougher because most of the Sixers players are expiring, whether that's trying to use your cap space to take back salary in next July, whether that is outright signing someone with all that cap space they now have. And really, they only have 3 players under contract, right? It's Embiid, it's Springer, Paul Reed's on a non-guaranteed, and Maxey has a
pending what happens in the playoffs. That guarantee is based on how they perform this year. So
there's also all kinds of loopholes around there. Like he has to actually be on the roster when they win that series. So they could actually, if let's say something really bad happened. I don't think it will, but just in case something really bad happened, they could cut him at the end of the regular season, and that would be a non-guaranteed deal, even if they.
Now that would really be something.
If they were super desperate for cap space, that's not even guaranteed at this point. Even if they do advance out of the first round, that's all I'm trying to say. I don't think they're going to cut Paul Reed. Don't misinterpret that. Certainly do not aggregate that. But yeah, they have a ton of potential cap space. The 2 players that are going to matter, the cap hold for DeAnthony Melton is $15.2 million. So basically what that means is he counts $15.2 million towards your cap until you either sign him to a new deal or renounce that. If you renounce that, then you have to bring him back with cap space. He's probably going to end up getting more than $15.2 million in free agency, or at least close to it. So you wouldn't want to renounce that. So you want to keep a hold of that one. And Tyrese Maxey has a $13 million cap hold, which is the big one because he's going to end up getting multiples of that when he does eventually sign. So you want to make sure that you sign. That's why he didn't sign a rookie scale extension, because you want to keep that low cap hold going in free agency so you can have max cap space. Again, it might end up working out where they make a trade at the deadline. They don't end up having cap space. This is just a contingency plan.
Yeah.
But it is a very important one that they've been thinking about for a long time.
By the way, I teased this a bit to open the show and never got to it. I think moving PJ is a bigger part of this than people probably realize. I think we have certainly talked about it, but I think the Sixers look at it much closer than anybody else. And I think they could see the writing on the wall that even with as well as Maxey was playing, that if you have a guy like PJ on the floor who essentially has no offensive utility except to stand in the corner.
And you don't have a guy creating those corner shots.
He was not going to serve his purpose in the offense, and 2, teams were going to load up more than they probably already are against Tyrese Maxey. And I think that was a big part of the calculus of why he's getting shipped out as well.
Especially if you can bring back a couple of capable defenders as well. And again, Covington has taken a step or 2 back. Batum has certainly taken a step or 2 back. You don't know exactly what they're going to be, but at the very least, they are smart, capable defenders in that regard, and probably someone who can more credibly move up a position and cover that 4 spot just because they do have some size. I agree. He had a guaranteed contract for next year, so you get salary flexibility for a player who's probably going to be a little bit tough to move later and who wasn't as valuable to you because he was thriving off of those Harden corner threes. I agree.
We all silly like the mayor.